So welcome everyone to our February coffee chat. I am Laura Knutson-Murray. I'm the GIS coordinator and community outreach assistant for IrisBG. With us today on the call is Shanna Jones, our social media and community outreach assistant, and our newest team member, our software developer, Anil Lerner. So the recording and presentation and other material will be made available in our knowledge library, as with all of our previous coffee chats. They can be found there under the category articles and presentations. You can also follow the topic IrisBG coffee chats and be notified via email every time something new is published. We do have a forum. The space is made for all of you to ask questions of each other or ask questions of the community. So please make use of that. And you can follow topics and they will appear in your email as questions come up. Just remember, these coffee chats are for you. The idea behind these sessions is that we'll offer a space for you to connect, have a chat with your peers, and discuss any issues that may arise with your work or your collection. We don't have a fixed format for these sessions. So please get in touch with me if you would like to present a challenge or talk on a topic. It can be anything big or small. Hopefully, you'll make some new connections here today, and together we will become a little bit wiser. Save the date for our next coffee chat. It will be given by Mike Peary, Associate Professor of Botany from the University of Bergen. He will talk on iNaturalist meets IrisBG, Index Seminum, and citizen science. So it should be a really exciting discussion. Here's a map of where you all are coming from. It's fun to see so many countries represented. We could quick launch the polls. We have two polls today. One with your IrisBG experience. Just rate your level of experience. You're just trying out the trial, a novice, intermediate, or advanced. And then our next set of questions have more to do with GIS and mobile data collection. So please rate your level of experience using ArcGIS software. No experience, novice, intermediate, advanced. It's a good mix. 40% are novice, 30% are intermediate. And what programs do you primarily use will be the next one. But also what GIS environments you work in. This will help inform how we write our knowledge library articles and also inform future development. They're open source users. We'd love to know that. And the final question, how often do you anticipate completing the following tasks using mobile data collection? So update accession data, mapping coordinates, updating label status, tree inspections, recording propagation data, capturing images, or adding accessions. And then looks like everybody wants to update accession data. That's not a surprise. Or mapping coordinates, label status. Looks like the features we're building are going to be well received. So that's good. Moving on. So our agenda today, we have two parts to our mobile data collection using ArcGIS. The first portion will cover using just Google Sheets, a very basic, easy entry to mobile data collection in an offline collaborative setting. And then the bulk of our presentation will be about using ArcGIS. And we have some beta testers that will talk about their experience using ArcGIS. So let's get into it. So IrisBG is a software that is intentionally designed to be scalable to meet the needs and budgets of gardens all over. The same strategy will be applied to our mobile data collection solutions, whether it's ArcGIS, Google Sheets, Office 365, or another platform. We'll work with you to meet your mobile data collection needs. We've heard requests from the community about having an enterprise or an open source solution, and those are under consideration. Keep bothering us about it. So let's jump into how to use Smartsheets. So you are able to export our new reports. They are under section 11 GIS. And even though it says GIS, you can use it in Google Sheets. So we understand that not everyone uses GIS, but would like to be able to update records in a mobile context. So first, you'll export the report and the code lists. You're able to set up a filter for your reports. So if, for example, you want to routinely inventory items that are in propagation, your item status type under the operator in list, existing, and also procedure so that you can see those propagations. And then you can save this filter to pull up again by clicking the extended menu and giving it a name. We have a link to a tutorial on that. So once you have those reports and code lists exported, you're able to open up Google Sheets and upload the filtered report. So the items export, you can either browse or drag and drop. And just like with many Google products, you can set a sharing level, but you can also make the sheets available offline. So we have links to a tutorial on that because it has to be per device that you set it to be offline. So then you upload the main sheet to the report. And I find it helpful to freeze that top row so you see all of the columns. And then if you create a tab for each of the code lists, you'll have all the data in there. And next, if you create validation rules for each of the columns, you can bring those code lists in as a drop-down menu. And this step you'll only have to do once, and then you can just save it as a new project and reload the data as needed. So once you have updated your records and all of the users are back online, Google synchronizes all the changes, and you are able to download the spreadsheet and import it back into IrisBG. The sheets, again, can be reused. Save a copy and delete all the values from row 2 down, and it will save all those code lists that you shared. So moving on to mobile data collection with ArcGIS. This part will be a bit technical, so hang on with us. Just to give a little goal of where we're headed to, I have a video of what it looks like to use field maps with your data on an iPhone mini. So you don't have to go out and buy a new fancy tablet unless you would like to. But this short little video shows how field maps uses the optical character recognition. So you can open your camera, hover over an accession number on a tag. It will pull up that record, search through your records, and then you can edit any of the fields that are available. In this case, I have a label and submit the changes. So this is where we're headed. Hang with us. You can see that the status bar I have at the bottom hasn't moved much, but I promise we'll have all of the details in a knowledge library article. So our goals for the IrisBG ArcGIS sync template are to provide a mobile data collection solution for our ArcGIS users. And we know that working with GIS is complex, and we're making the solution as easy as possible. We also are improving it with automation with scripts so that your workflow will be smooth. And of course, the fine print, we're offering this solution at no cost to our users. However, you do need the mapping and data import modules for this functionality. And of course, you need an ArcGIS license. I encourage you all to become familiar with Esri's nonprofit program or ask someone in the community about how this program works. It's my understanding that many of the gardens in the US and institutions worldwide are able to have the license at a significantly reduced cost. So ask someone here today about that, or follow the link to the Esri nonprofit program. So just a little bit of housekeeping of how to get the IrisBG ArcGIS sync beta. We have a Google form that if you'll fill that out and share with us what your ArcGIS online username is, we can send you a link to be a part of or an invitation to be a part of the tester group. And the template and the toolbox can be downloaded from there. We will also email you a link with the beta tester version of IrisBG. So what is in the template? There are feature classes and separate geodatabases. And the feature classes are compatible with the report exports. They have style labels, labeling set, and there's also a toolbox. The template is set up in WGS 84, and it was created in ArcPro 3, and it must be used with a ArcPro standard licensing or better. Again, we'll have these details in the knowledge library article. So the feature classes, there are two. There's the items which will be your existing item data that is exported from IrisBG, and it has 50 fields at the moment. It can be improved and added to as requested. It'll be standard for everyone, but we will continue to improve it. So it has accession level data, item level data, so item status, condition, person, item status, date, those kinds of things. Also, you can track labels, the status and type, tree inspections, so measurements, the height, stem, crown, propagation data, so the propagule container, duration, environment, medium, treatment. And what's new with that is we've made your entries into code lists, so you can drag and drop, I guess, from the code list. It is also ready for images, and it is GNSS ready. So it has those metadata fields for those of you that use high accuracy receivers. The second layer is for new accessions. So just like in Iris, when you are creating a new accession, it has a limited number of fields until that accession number is assigned. So you are able to choose from a drop-down list, code list of your taxa that comes from IrisBG. You have to assign a provenance, item type, item status, condition, location, status person, comments, all of that. You also are able to attach images, and it is GNSS ready. So understandably, this won't be a comprehensive tutorial on how to use ArcPro, but we will have tutorials in the knowledge library. And for our purposes today, I would just like to give you a feel for the functionality of how ultimately field maps will work, but also how to initiate the initial setup for the project that can be reused. So you start in ArcPro with the template, save a local project, and publish to your ArcGIS account. You are able to run scripts from the toolbox later to bring in your Iris data. When you publish those features to the web, make sure that you configure the project for who you are sharing with in your organization, and also enable editing, sync, exporting, and preserve editor tracking. These steps are the one-time setting up the project, so it won't have to happen every time. Next, you are able to, when you publish the layers into ArcGIS Online, it's important to make a web map. And when you configure that web map, you can make the layers searchable. So just like in the example I had in the beginning, where you could use the camera to scan the text on a label, you need to enable that functionality. And again, that will stay after that first time. You are able to bookmark locations and add other layers that are great for reference, whether it's irrigation zones, lines, hardscapes, paths, buildings, those kinds of things that are relevant to your daily workflow. So within Field Maps Designer, so you have the web map configured, and then you can move on to Field Maps Designer. You're able to set the field map to work offline and collaboratively. The code lists that you have set, you can check boxes to make those values required. There's a task that you want to make sure that the data is collected as you expect every time. Or you can even set defaults if there's something that will be chosen regularly. You can deviate from it, but the default pops up first. Because there are 50 fields to gather data in, I've collapsed them into groups by topic to help organize your work as you are going along. After you've collected all of your data out in the fields, you're able to open an ArcPro project and use the scripts in the toolbox to download the data, filter the changes, and send them back along with the images into IrisBG. We also have a script that will reset the project for use next time so that you don't have to go through all of those steps again. So a few homework steps. One way that the scripts run, and you'll know this in ArcGIS, that each point needs to have a coordinate. And so it's important that each of your collection locations has coordinates set. So that's one of your bits of homework, is to assign coordinates to each of your locations. Another bit of homework is to check to see if you have unknown taxa for your new accessions layer. If you're out in the garden and you are entering something that isn't in your taxon list, you can assign unknown and then write comments in the item comments field, attach a photo, and come back to the office and make a determination there. Another couple of things to note, there's a lot to learn about ArcGIS and field maps. So there are several resources out there. There's the Plant Map Meetup group. Jamie Fry is on the call. She can tell you more about that. And also a newly formed Esri community that's headed up by Laurel Hill for newish plant mappers. And another thing to think about is the base map. If there is a high resolution ortho imagery, you really want to zoom in tightly to a bed and want better resolution than what's available for free, you can contact your local municipality, and frequently they will share that with you. Or if you would like to make vector layers that have beds, paths, or buildings, that is also something you can use. And again, those reference layers of irrigation zones or sprinklers is something that can be used. And also know that that base map can be hosted by us for use in the Garden Explorer, or you can host it yourself as a web map tile service to use in IrisBG. And again, we've set up these spaces for you all to discuss some of these topics and share tips and tricks. If you send me an email with a really great question, I'll ask you to post it in the forum for everyone's benefit. So please make use of the Knowledge Library and the forum. And I'm going to turn it over to our beta testers to have us talk while I work on getting the field map out. So 2 of our beta testers, Jenna Portanova, she's the plant records manager at Houston Botanic Garden, where records and mapping are an integral part of her role. Her first GIS project was in 2012. She was predicting plant species distribution in the Voorhees Reserve at Cal Poly Pomona as a botany undergrad. She continued to use GIS and plant data collection during her thesis, and after graduating with her master's in biology, she moved to Texas and has continued working as a GIS professional. And Autumn Ayers is the garden records and collections manager at Descanso, and she's been working with plant records for 6 years. She earned her bachelor's degree in horticulture from Temple University. She trained in plant records keeping as an intern at the University of Pennsylvania and again at Longwood Gardens. In her current role, she's been working with IrisBG and ArcGIS for 3 years. I really want to thank both of you for your diligent testing. We've made great strides because of you, and I know you haven't tested the automation yet, but it's coming, and we're really excited about it. But I wanted the community to hear from your experiences. So Autumn, if we could start with you, and if you could tell us a little bit about how long it took you to become familiar and comfortable using field maps.
Sure. So I'd used field maps before this application of it. When I got to this garden, we already had a GIS system set up, but it wasn't really, it was an old form of listing. It was not what it is currently. And the actual field map applications that were already set up, someone had done the template work, super easy, could go out on day one and use them. The actual setting up of the field maps is actually pretty easy. I of course had Laura there to walk me through it, but with the tutorial, I think it's very doable even for someone who hasn't worked with ArcGIS before.
Great, thank you. And I know Jenna has quite a bit of mapping experience, so I might ask you to talk a little bit about going out into the field. Do you always use a GNSS receiver for high accuracy when you're using field maps?
Thank you for the intro, and the answer is sometimes. So no, I don't always use it. It depends on if I need the high accuracy, if I'm mapping new things, or if I'm in a part of the bed that maybe has a lot of density. And so I might need that higher resolution to make sure I'm next to the correct plant. But if I'm in more of a spread as I continue to map things, let's say the culinary garden, I just go out with my phone, and if the 3-meter accuracy is good enough for the bed to identify, hey, I know that glamour red cabbage is here, and I'm placing a label, so I just update. So it's a little bit of both.
Autumn, do you often use a high accuracy receiver when you're out collecting?
I generally do. I have field maps that I have volunteers help me with and that kind of thing that are not really accuracy relevant. And so for those, I don't send them out with an antenna. But when I go out to do this kind of mapping, I almost always take an antenna, partially because a lot of our collections were originally mapped in like 1997, 1998, when accuracy was not what it is now, especially because we have a very heavy tree cover and we're kind of in a natural bowl. So it's a very hard area to get good accuracy. So something that's actually really helpful about this, and part of why I was so keen to be a beta tester, is that it's really useful for me to be in the field, able to help sort out where an actual plant is and where its neighbors are, because we have, 3 feet or more of inaccuracy from the last couple of years of mapping, and up to 10 or more for years before that. So fixing the records as I do inventory is far easier than looking at the map in the office and saying, well, it could be this one, going back out, the sort of 3 times in and out shuffle that we kind of have to do with paper.
Great. And I did get your field map working, Autumn, so we can share the screen. So this was one of the beta tests that Autumn had going, and you can tell that her symbology was different. And Autumn, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, just pop up the legend of what colors you're displaying in this particular map.
Sure. So we have a lot of status codes in our system. We use all of them for this kind of inventory. But something that was important for me is I did include more than just my existing plants, because something important is, because of the stuff that I mentioned before, sometimes we can find plants in inventory that were marked not found because they're in the wrong location or that kind of thing. So being able to display those not found codes and being able to search for them and find them and reactivate accessions was really important in the field. Also, for damage inspections, being able to see if there's, with last year's winter storms here in California, we had tons and tons of fallen trees and damage, et cetera. So being able to show on a map, like, oh, here's a specific area that was hard hit. Or even new plantings, or here's a new area of the garden that we're still working on. If it's an area I can send volunteers out to look for display labels and make sure that we have them, that kind of thing.
Thank you. So again, just a little bit about how you could type in and have that particular session pop up, take a photo and attach things. So a little bit just to have a visual of how it works. So Jenna, I imagine you also have a custom-based map.
Actually, I don't. I use satellite, and
Okay.
I have custom layers of our locations. So I've done a combination of existing CAD files of the designs, as well as going out there and mapping polygons. And then I overlay those on whatever satellite imagery I can get that's best from GIS, from field maps and Esri. And then, if you make your polygons, of course, transparent in the center, you can see all your points. So it works out well for me.
Perfect. And I know you've had a workaround. I feel like we need to have a coffee chat with you, or at least a posting about how you updated your location codes. We got to see a little bit of that, but that's maybe more than we want to bite off for today's session.
Sure, no problem.
And then Autumn, I know you have volunteers that work with you. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of tasks they take on and whether or not you see them using this field map to accomplish some tasks or other ones?
I think for my current round of trying to sort out what things are, that's more a job that I'll take on, since a lot of it has to do with ID. But I do see this being useful once I've done some of this initial re-inventory to have them help with this kind of task. But I do actually use field maps data collection combined with IrisBG, just not pulling the data back into IrisBG quite the same way. Like right now, we're moving into our spring season here in LA, particularly. But we have a map of all of sort of the prunus and magnolia trees. And I exported that from IrisBG, and we have a sort of updatable what level of bloom is it in map. My volunteers walk around to the trees and update, is it in bud, is it in peak bloom, etc. And that goes live to our website. So I do have things that come from IrisBG to ArcGIS and field maps that volunteers work on regularly.
Great, thank you. Jenna, do you hand field maps to your volunteers to accomplish different tasks?
I do. In fact, I'm actually working on a training session to see if I can get some more volunteers that are able to. We have some trees that are believed to be nearly 100 years old that are natural to the site. And so we're going through having volunteers map as well as measure the diameter, note if the tree is still there, and then update where it is on the garden. And then we have a whole model of how I export that into Excel so I can import that into IrisBG.
Sounds like another coffee chat topic. Yeah, and then just real quick, if either of you want to talk about the tests that you have been able to take on or hope to take on using this particular setup with field maps. And Autumn, I guess you can go first.
I was able to already start a lot more mapping in areas that we haven't been touched in a long time. So that was really exciting, as well as something just really beneficial about this time of year. So Descanso Gardens has about 6,000 at least camellia plants from at least 600 different taxa, and many of them are unidentified. So being able to be in the field and attach a picture straight to an accession file and to identify back in the office with a map point is really useful, because before I'd been able to tie, via volunteer taking pictures of an accession tag and then picture, and these are accessions but unidentified plants. It's really hard to be able to get the right plant to the right point on the map. So being able to do that in the field extraordinarily helpful.
It's great. Thank you.
All right, then I'll go ahead. So prior to this feature coming from Iris, I had already had long-term goals to find a way to get features or this data into a feature service with ArcGIS. My goal is to have our horticulture team have access to that data live in the field. Currently, they can create plant actions in the field or at their desktop, but they cannot place a point where it is. And so this will already help them, as soon as I make it viewable, to at least see what's around them. Many don't know is Houston Botanic Garden is a new garden, and there was not mapping and accession tags placed at the moment of opening at 2020. And so there's a lot of plants that the horticulturists are familiar with, but they do not have accession tags when they go to make those actions. And so matching those plants up to those accessions is how this will help me.
Great. Well, thank you again, both of you, for your diligent work and testing. And thank you for coming. And we will see you next coffee chat in March.